If you've been following this series and your parents are ready to explore a life settlement, you're probably wondering what actually happens next. Today, I'm going to walk you through the entire process, step by step, so there are no surprises and no confusions. Now, by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what to expect, how long it takes, and what your family needs to do at each stage of the process. I'm 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐸, and over the past 4 episodes, we've covered a lot. We covered why life settlements exist, why timing is critical, how to know if your parents qualify, and how to have that very important conversation with them. That was a good one. Now it's time for the practical part. What actually happens when you decide to move forward. I'm going to share the exact process that a caring advisor like yours truly here guide families through it. Okay, now, including giving you realistic timelines and what you can expect at each step. Now, this isn't a sales pitch. It's a behind-the-scene look at how this industry actually works, so your family can make informed decisions. Okay, now, step 1, the consultation. This is the initial consultation, and this should always be free. If someone tries to charge you for this step, that's a red flag and you need to run real quick. Okay? Now, during this 15-20 minute conversation, what we're going to do, we're going to go through the same 5 questions that I covered in episode 3. If you haven't watched that, go back and look at it. Plus a few more details about the policy. The goal is to determine if it's worth pursuing. Now, these are the things I want you to have ready. You want to have your insurance policy handy, or at least know the death benefit amount, the insurance company, what type of policy it is, and when it was purchased. Remember? Now, about 60% of policies that family calls me about don't qualify for various reasons, and that is completely normal. And I'd rather tell you honestly up front than just to waste your time. But if the policy looks promising, we can usually schedule the next step within a few days. If it doesn't qualify, I explain why and suggest some other options for you if there are any. Now, step 2 is where we get serious about evaluation. I need a copy of the complete insurance policy, not just the declaration page, but the full contract. If your parents can't find it, they can request this from the insurance company, okay? Now, sometimes families worry about this part. They worry about this step, thinking it would trigger some unwanted attention, from the insurance companies. But requesting policy document is completely normal in this industry and happens all the time for estate planning and financial reviews. Now, I'm reviewing things like the exact policy structure, any riders or benefits, the current cash value, and premium payment history. All of this affects the potential settlement value. Okay, keep that in mind. We'll also need some basic medical information. Usually it's just a simple questionnaire about your parents' health history and current medication, similar to when you go to a new doctor for the first time. Nothing invasive at this stage at all. Now, this step typically takes 2 to 3 business days once I receive the documents. Now, I'll call you my assessments and let you know if we should move to the next step. Step 3 is where we go to market. This is where we go to market. If the policy looks good, I submit it to the multiple life settlement companies to get competitive offers. Okay, this is all behind the scenes. Now, here's what most people don't realize. There isn't just one company buying life settlements. There are dozens of institutional investors, and each one has different criteria and different pricing models, okay? This is where working with a broker advisor like me really matters. Instead of your family trying to figure out which companies to contact, it's stressful. I have relationships with all the major players, which ones are most likely to be interested in your specific situation. Now, I package all the information professionally and submit it simultaneously. Now, to a lot of companies, it depends upon the model. This creates competition for your parents' policy, which typically results in higher offers. Most companies respond within 7 to 10 business days with either an offer or a request for additional information. Very common, very common. Now, step 4 is medical underwriting. And this is often what families are mostly concerned about. But let me walk you through exactly what this involves. No panicking here. The life settlement companies will order medical records from your parents' doctors, usually going back 5 to 10 years. Your parent would need to sign medical release forms, but they can specify which doctors and which time periods. Okay? Families often worry that this is so invasive, but remember, your parents already went through medical underwriting when they first bought the policy. This is actually less extensive than that original process. Trust me, it really is. Okay. Now, the company isn't hoping that your parent is sick. That's not what the deal is. They're trying to accurately assess life expectancy to determine a fair offer. Someone who's healthier than expected might get a lower offer, while someone with more health issues might get a higher offer. Get it? Get it? Just all depends on where you are. Sometimes they'll also request a brief phone interview with your parent, usually 10 to 15 minutes of basic health questions. This is typically scheduled at your parents' convenience. It's no stress at all. Now, medical underwriting usually takes 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how quickly the doctor's office responds with records. Now, step 5 is when the offers start coming in. And this is usually the most exciting part of the process, for families. Okay? Now, what to expect? Now, you might receive anywhere from 2 to 6 offers, and they can vary significantly. There have been such situations where the highest offers was 40% more than the lowest offer for the same policy. Okay, now here is where my role come in. This is where my experience really matters. The highest offer is presented with you and your parents. Our company always negotiate with the companies to improve their offers before presenting it to your parents. Now, your parents don't have to accept the highest offer if there are other factors they care about. Sometimes families prefer a company with a faster closing timeline or one that's more flexible about certain terms. Okay? It's no pressure. And here's something important. Your parents can still change their minds at this point. Even after receiving offers, they can decide to keep their policy if they're not comfortable with the settlement amounts. It's up to them. The offer and negotiation phase typically takes about 1 to 2 weeks. Now, that's depending on how long your family needs to make a decision. Okay? Now, step 6 is the closing process, and this is where everything becomes official. Once your parents accept an offer, there's a legal review period. Both sides review the settlement agreement, and your parents have the right to have their attorney to look at it if they want to. It's up to them. Now, the transaction goes through a licensed escrow company, usually one that specializes in life settlements. Okay, this protects everyone involved and ensures that all the paperwork is handled correctly. Your parents will sign documents that's going to be transferring ownership of the policy to the life settlement company who bought it, okay? They'll also sign some tax-related forms as well, since life settlements can have tax implications. So I always recommend families to consult with their tax advisor, about the tax consequences, okay? Every situation is different, and you want to understand the full financial picture. Now, once all the documents are signed and verified, the escrow company releases the funds, your parents receive their settlement amount, and they're completely free from any future premium obligations. They're done. The closing process typically takes 1 to 2 weeks from acceptance of the offer. Now, so what's the realistic timeline, Sheila Rosiel, from start to finish? In my experience, most life settlements take 6 to 10 weeks total. Initial consultations to offers, 4 to 6 weeks. Decision and closing, 2 to 4 weeks. Process, 6 to 10 weeks total, okay? Some things can slow it down, like doctors being slow to send records, families needing more time to make decisions, or complications with the policy structure. Some things can speed it up. having all documents ready, quick medical records and all, and decisive families. I always tell families to plan for 8 weeks and be pleasantly surprised if it's faster than that. This isn't something that happens overnight, but it's also not a 6-month ordeal either. How about that? So think about that. Over these 5 episodes, we cover everything from why life settlements exist to exactly how the process works. My goal was to give you the information you need to help your family make the best decision for their situation. Now, whether your parents ultimately decide to pursue a life settlement, keep their policy, or just explore other options, at least now they'll be making that decision with complete information, knowing all their options. I became a life settlement broker because I saw how this option could have helped my own family with my own policy. And I found out about it after I lapsed my biggest policy, and I vowed to tell anyone who will hear me about this little known option, and I wanted to help other families to discover this opportunity. But I also know it's not right for everyone either, and that's absolutely okay. If your parents' situation matches what we discussed in this series, don't wait too long to explore the option. As we saw in episode 2, timing really does matter in some situations. If you have questions about anything we've covered, or if you'd like to discuss your parents' specific situation, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help families understand their options, even if a life settlement isn't the right fit. Thank you so much for following along with this series. I hope it's been helpful. I really do. And I hope your family finds the perfect solution for their situation. This is 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐸 with Legacy Life 101. Peace and blessings.